Welcome to the channel. Today, you're not just going to hear a story, you're going to experience a journey that might change how you think about your own life, your limits, and your future. Because many people say certain things are not possible, many people stop before they even begin, but the truth is very simple: limits are often created in the mind long before they exist in reality. This is the story of a young man who started from almost nothing, no special connections, no advanced education, no clear path, just a vision that refused to disappear, even when life tried to push it away. As you listen, focus on the meaning, not every single word. Let your understanding grow naturally. This is how real English learning happens. My name is Alex. I grew up in a small and crowded neighborhood where ambition was rare and routine was everything. People around me did not talk about building a future, they talked about getting through the day. Expectations were simple: find a job, earn enough, and don't take unnecessary risks. My family lived in a modest apartment. Not the worst, but never enough. Space was limited, comfort was minimal, and every small problem felt bigger than it should have been. My father worked long hours fixing machines, his body always exhausted, his silence saying more than words ever could. My mother handled everything else, managing the house, the stress, and still finding a way to keep us smiling. From the outside, everything looked normal. But inside, I always felt something different. A quiet question that never left my mind. Every evening, I would stand near the window and watch cars pass by, bright lights, music, people laughing inside, living a life that felt distant from mine. I never felt envy, but I felt curiosity. How does someone reach that level? What path do they follow? And more importantly, is that path open to me? While others spent their time playing or relaxing, my attention was somewhere else. I became fascinated by something I did not fully understand at the beginning. Technology. I would walk long distances just to sit inside a small internet cafe, not to play games, not to waste time, but simply to observe. I watched people typing, building systems, creating things that did not exist before. Lines of code appeared on the screen like a different language. A language that could build entire worlds. That's when I discovered a term that changed everything. Software engineer. To me, it sounded like something powerful. People using ideas instead of tools, building solutions with logic, turning thoughts into reality. And in that moment, I made a decision. One day, I will become one of them. The reality, however, was very different. I didn't have a computer. There was no internet connection at home. My English was limited. And no one around me understood this path. But still, something inside me stayed strong. And this is important to understand. Belief often comes before proof. You don't wait until everything is ready. You decide first, and then you build. But life doesn't always give you the freedom to chase what you want. One evening, I overheard my parents having a quiet conversation. They were talking about money, responsibilities, and survival. Then my name came up. Not as a dream, but as a concern. Maybe he should start working. Maybe he should help the family. Maybe this path is too uncertain. That moment stayed with me. Not because they didn't believe in me, but because they were dealing with reality. And sometimes, reality forces you to choose between your vision and your responsibilities. At 17, I made a decision. Not to give up, but to delay. I stepped into a job as a night security guard. Every evening, I stood outside a large building, watching people walk in and out. Inside, there were professionals working on computers, creating, building, living the future I once imagined. Outside, I stood still. Quiet. Invisible. Observing. But inside my mind, something never changed. I told myself one simple thing, again and again: this is not where my story ends. This is only a pause. And sometimes, in life, a pause is not failure. It is preparation. The nights became longer, colder, and heavier, but something inside me refused to fade. While most people saw a guard standing still, I knew I was in the middle of something much bigger. I was not just working, I was preparing. Every shift started the same way. I stood at the entrance, watching employees walk past me, confident, focused, carrying laptops and conversations I didn't fully understand yet. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. Not just their faces, but their direction, their purpose, their world. And I wanted to be part of that world. I didn't have access, but I had observation. I didn't have a mentor, but I had curiosity. That was enough to begin. During my breaks, I would sit in a quiet corner, take out my small phone, and search for answers. Simple questions at first. How do websites work? What is coding? How do people create applications? The connection was slow. Sometimes videos wouldn't load. Sometimes I didn't understand anything being said. The language felt fast, unfamiliar, almost impossible to follow. But I kept going. Because even when I didn't understand the words, I understood the direction. I started saving free materials, basic lessons, simple explanations. I didn't have a proper setup, no desk, no computer, no comfortable space. Just determination. After each night shift, while others rested, I would sit under a dim light and read whatever I had downloaded. Line by line. Slowly. Repeating. Trying again. My routine was exhausting. A few hours of sleep. Long nights of work. Short moments of study. But something interesting happened. The more I pushed, the more my mind adapted. At first, everything felt confusing. Then small things started making sense. Then patterns appeared. Then connections formed. And that's when I realized something powerful. Learning is not instant. It builds quietly. People around me didn't understand what I was doing. Some laughed. Some ignored me. Some simply said, "Be realistic." Even those close to me questioned the effort. One evening, during dinner, my father looked at me and said, "You're working hard already. Why add more pressure? Focus on stability. That's what matters." I didn't respond immediately. Because I understood his perspective. He wasn't limiting me. He was protecting me. But inside, I made a silent decision. I will not stop. There were nights when everything felt too heavy. No progress. No clarity. No results. Just effort without visible reward. And those moments are the most dangerous. Not because they break you physically, but because they test your belief. One night, I reached my limit. I was tired, mentally drained, and completely lost. I couldn't understand a simple concept I had been trying to learn for hours. I sat down, looked at my notes, and for the first time, doubt became loud. Maybe this is too far. Maybe this is not for me. I stayed there in silence. Not angry. Not emotional, just empty. Then something small happened. A man walked out of the building late at night. One of the engineers. He noticed the notebook in my hand. He paused. "What are you working on?" he asked. I hesitated for a second, then answered honestly. "I'm trying to learn programming." He looked at me for a moment, then gave a small smile. "That's not easy. But if you keep going, it's possible." And then he left. That moment didn't change my situation. I was still a guard. Still tired. Still struggling. But it changed something inside me. For the first time, someone from that world didn't doubt me. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. He acknowledged it. And that was enough. From that night, everything felt different. Not easier, but clearer. I stopped waiting for approval. I stopped explaining my path. I stopped looking for validation. I focused only on one thing. Progress. Even if it was slow. Even if it was invisible. Because I finally understood something most people miss. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need one reason to keep going. And sometimes, that reason is you. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly, something inside me began to change. Not my situation, not my environment, but my mindset. I was no longer just trying to understand things, I was starting to apply them. And that made all the difference. Up to that point, everything I had done was theory. Watching, reading, repeating. But now, I felt ready to create something of my own. Not something big. Not something perfect. Just something real. I decided to build my first simple project. A small website. Nothing advanced, just basic structure, simple design, and a few elements working together. It sounded easy in my head. But reality was different. The first attempt was messy. Lines of code didn't behave the way I expected. The layout looked broken. Things didn't appear where they were supposed to. Sometimes the screen showed nothing at all. Still, I kept going. Hour after hour. Night after night. Fixing one thing, breaking another. Learning through mistakes. After several days of effort, I reached a moment I will never forget. I clicked to run the project. And for a second, it worked. Then suddenly, everything disappeared. Blank screen. Error. I froze. I checked the code again. Nothing. I refreshed. Still nothing. Every line I had written, every small improvement, felt like it vanished in one moment. That night was difficult. I didn't go home immediately. I sat outside, in silence, staring at the ground, replaying everything in my mind. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was aiming too high. Maybe this path wasn't meant for me. The thought stayed there longer than I expected. But something else stayed too. A question. If I stop now, what happens next? The answer was clear. Nothing changes, and that realization brought me back. Not stronger. Not more confident. Just more honest. I understood something important in that moment. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. The next day, I returned to the same code. This time, slower. More careful. Instead of rushing, I focused on understanding each part. One section at a time. One problem at a time. And gradually, the confusion started to fade. Then it happened again. I ran the project. And this time, it stayed. The page loaded. Simple. Basic. Not impressive. But working. I didn't celebrate loudly. I didn't tell anyone. But inside, something shifted. For the first time, I had proof. Not hope. Not imagination. Proof. I could build something. Even if it was small. Even if it wasn't perfect. It was real. That moment gave me something more valuable than success. Confidence. From that point, I stopped thinking like someone trying to learn. I started thinking like someone who is becoming. With that new mindset, I made a bold move. I started applying for opportunities. Not because I felt ready. But because I refused to wait until I felt perfect. I sent applications to many companies. Without a degree. Without experience. Without strong communication skills. Just a few projects and a strong intention. Most responses were negative. Some didn't reply at all. Some rejected me quickly. Some said I didn't meet the requirements. And that was expected. But I kept going. Because I wasn't looking for approval from everyone. I was looking for one chance. And eventually, one reply came. Different from the others. Simple. We would like to speak with you. That message changed everything. Not because I had already succeeded. but because the door had opened. Even slightly. And sometimes, a small opening is all you need to enter a new world. That single message stayed on my screen for a long time. We would like to speak with you. It didn't look like much. No promises, no guarantees, just a simple invitation. But for me, it meant something powerful. It meant someone saw potential where others saw nothing. The days that followed were intense. I didn't celebrate. I didn't relax. I prepared. I reviewed everything I had learned. I went back to my notes, corrected my mistakes, practiced explaining simple ideas in clear sentences. I stood in front of a mirror and spoke to myself, trying to organize my thoughts, trying to sound confident even when I wasn't. I knew one thing. This was not just a conversation. It was a test of everything I had built alone. The day of the meeting arrived. I didn't have formal clothes. No polished shoes, no professional look. So I wore what I had. Simple. Clean. Honest. When I entered the building, something felt different. For the first time, I wasn't standing outside. I was walking inside. Through the main entrance. Not as someone watching, but as someone participating. The room was quiet. The person across the table looked at me, then asked a simple question. Tell me about yourself. I could have tried to sound perfect. I could have used complicated words or memorized answers. But instead, I chose truth. I work night shifts as a security guard, I said. But every free moment I have, I study. I don't have a traditional path, but I'm building one step by step. There was a short silence. Not uncomfortable, just unexpected. Then something changed in the atmosphere. The questions became deeper. Not about what I didn't have, but about what I had built. They asked about my projects. My learning process. My way of solving problems. For the first time, I wasn't being judged by my background. I was being evaluated by my effort. The conversation ended. No immediate result. Just a simple sentence. We'll get back to you. Waiting was difficult. Each day felt longer than the last. Doubt returned. What if it wasn't enough? What if I missed my only chance? But this time, something was different. Even in uncertainty, I felt progress. Because I knew I had shown up fully. Then the message came. Short. Direct. You've been selected for an internship position. I read it twice. Then again. It wasn't a full job. It wasn't a high salary. In fact, it wasn't paid at all. But it didn't matter. Because this was not about money. This was about access. The first day inside the office felt unreal. Same building. Same environment. But everything had changed. The people I once observed from a distance were now sitting next to me. Working. Discussing. Creating. And I was there too. Not as a guard. Not as an outsider. But as someone learning from within. It wasn't easy. I felt behind. I felt slower. I felt exposed. But instead of stepping back, I leaned forward. I listened more carefully. I asked better questions. I spent extra time understanding what others already knew. Every challenge became a lesson. Every mistake became information. And slowly, something started to shift again. Not in my position. But in my confidence. Because I realized something important. You don't need to be the best. You need to be the one who refuses to stop improving. That mindset changed everything. And from that point, there was no turning back. Time moved forward, not quickly, not easily, but steadily. Days turned into months, and months slowly became years. What once felt impossible began to take shape in ways I never imagined. I was no longer the person trying to catch up. I was building, contributing, improving. The internship that started as an opportunity became something more. Responsibility grew. Tasks became more complex. Expectations increased. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, I adapted. Because I had already faced something harder. Starting with nothing. Each day, I pushed a little further, not to prove anything to others, but to confirm something to myself. That I belonged. Eventually, the moment arrived. A full-time position. Not temporary. Not uncertain. Real. When I saw the confirmation, I didn't react immediately. I just sat there for a few seconds. Quiet. Still. Letting it sink in. From standing outside a building, to working inside it. From watching screens, to creating on them. From doubt, to direction. That journey didn't happen in one moment. It was built through hundreds of small decisions. Showing up when it was difficult, continuing when it was unclear. Believing when there was no evidence. The first time I received a real salary, I didn't think about luxury. I thought about home. I went back to the same place where everything started. Nothing had changed around me. Same walls. Same space. Same atmosphere. But something inside me was completely different. I handed my parents something simple. Support. Relief. Proof. No big speech. No dramatic moment. Just a quiet understanding. Everything they carried for years, was finally becoming lighter. And that was the real success. Not the position. Not the income. But the impact. Later, when life became more stable, I experienced things I once only imagined. Owning something of my own. Living without constant pressure. Making decisions without fear. But what mattered most was not what I gained. It was what I became. Strong under pressure. Clear in direction. Unbreakable in mindset. Sometimes, I return to the place where it all started. I stand outside for a moment and observe. Just like before. And I see someone new standing there. Quiet. Focused. Invisible to most. And I smile, because I understand something now. Behind that position, there could be another story beginning. Here is the truth. Your situation does not define your destination. Your starting point does not limit your potential. Your current role does not decide your final identity. People may doubt you. Circumstances may slow you down. Progress may feel invisible. But none of that determines the outcome. What matters is simple. Do you continue? Because everything changes the moment you decide not to stop. This is not just a story. This is a reminder. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need approval. You don't need a clear path from the beginning. You need commitment. You need consistency. You need the courage to move forward without guarantees. If this journey made you think differently, if it gave you strength, if it reminded you that progress is possible, then take that energy and use it. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that help you grow your English and your mindset at the same time. Because here, we don't just learn a language. We build a stronger version of ourselves. And remember, what feels impossible today, can become your reality tomorrow. If you refuse to give up.